deep beneath the shifting sands of the Middle East, in a location so remote and geologically unstable that it has remained untouched for 3 millennia. Something has finally been disturbed. For centuries, the resting place of King Solomon, the legendary biblical monarch and master of wisdom, was considered a mere myth, a ghost story whispered by treasure hunters and historians alike. But a recent high-stakes archaeological expedition using the latest LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar technology has just broken through a seal that has been closed for 3,000 years. What the scientists found behind that wall isn't just gold, silver, or ancient scrolls. They have uncovered a series of geological and historical anomalies, so bizarre and so unsettling that they are forcing us to rethink everything we know about the ancient world and the forces that truly ruled it. We are talking about structures that shouldn't exist, materials that shouldn't be there, and a discovery that is frankly sending a chill through the scientific community. To understand the scale of this mystery, we first have to look at the man himself. King Solomon was said to be the wealthiest and wisest man on earth. A king who commanded not just armies, but according to some ancient texts, the very elements of nature. For years, skeptics argued that there was no physical evidence for his massive wealth or his sophisticated empire. They called the stories of his mines and his legendary treasures exaggerations of folklore. But this new discovery at a site kept strictly secret for heritage security is changing that narrative fast. This wasn't just a tomb. It was a deep earth installation, protected by sophisticated geological traps and a series of seals that required modern engineering to bypass. When the lead archaeologists first breached the entrance, they didn't find the typical burial chamber you see in Egyptian or Mesopotamian sites. Instead, they found a corridor lined with a type of obsidian glass hybrid that reflects light in a way that suggests a highly advanced knowledge of optics. As the team moved deeper, their instruments started to malfunction. The electronic sensors, the high-definition cameras, and the communication arrays began to experience ghost signals and rapid battery drain. The scientists were entering a zone of extreme electromagnetic activity that defied the local geography. It was as if the tomb itself was generating a field, a protective barrier that had survived the passage of 3,000 years. The terrifying aspect of this discovery isn't the malfunctioning tech. It is what the tech managed to capture before it failed. The walls of the primary chamber are etched with a language that predates known Hebrew, scripted in a geometric pattern that looks more like a circuit board than a story. And at the center of this room, submerged in a pool of what appears to be a metallic, liquid substance, is a sarcophagus that is not made of stone or wood. It is made of a strange, non-corrosive alloy that remains shimmering and polished despite 30 centuries of isolation. Geologists on the team were immediately concerned by the temperature of the room. Usually, deep subterranean chambers are cool, but this tomb was radiating a consistent, low-level heat. Upon further investigation, they realized that the tomb was built directly over a rare geological vent, using the heat of the earth to power a rudimentary but effective ventilation and lighting system. But the lighting wasn't fire or torches. It was a series of bioluminescent minerals that responded to the presence of movement. As the team walked in, the room slowly began to glow with a pale, pulsating blue light. Imagine the psychological impact on an ancient looter who might have stumbled in here. They would have thought they were entering a realm of spirits. But the real shock came when they analyzed the bioorganic remains found in the perimeter of the chamber. These weren't servants or guards. They were specimens of animals that are either extinct or were never supposed to exist in this region. We are talking about skeletal structures that resemble creatures from ancient mythology, preserved in a way that suggests they were guarding the entrance. The scientific discovery here is a double-edged sword. It proves that Solomon's reign was far more technologically and biologically integrated than we ever dared to imagine. But it also opens a door to the possibility that the wisdom he possessed was actually a form of forgotten science that we are only now starting to rediscover. As the team moved toward the central sarcophagus, they noticed a series of mathematical equations carved into the floor. This is where the discovery becomes truly unsettling. These equations don't just deal with trade or architecture. They describe the movements of the stars, the frequency of geological events, and something even more modern, the vibration of atoms. How could a civilization 3,000 years ago have a grasp on subatomic frequencies? Some researchers suggest that Solomon didn't build this tomb alone. They point to the terrifying possibility that he was in possession of knowledge or artifacts that were not of his own making. Perhaps legacy technology from a civilization that predates our recorded history. The liquid metal pool surrounding the sarcophagus was another anomaly. Initial samples show that it is not mercury, as many expected. Instead, it is a complex suspension of minerals in a base that remains liquid at room temperature and appears to have antimicrobial properties. Nothing grows in this chamber. No mold, no bacteria, no dust. It is a perfectly sterile environment. The terrifying part is that the liquid appears to be circulating. Despite there being no pumps or visible power sources, the fluid is moving in a gentle, rhythmic spiral. This indicates a passive engineering feat that modern science is still trying to decode. Is it powered by the Earth's magnetic field? Or is there something inside the sarcophagus that is still active? The deeper the team went, the more they realized that the tomb was designed as a vault for something more than a person. In the side chambers, they found what appeared to be maps of the world, but not the world as it looked 3,000 years ago. These maps show coastlines and landmasses that match the world as it was tens of thousands of years earlier, long before the rise of the first known civilizations. This suggests that the wisdom of Solomon included a vast, archived history of the planet that we have lost. The implications are enormous. If a king in 900 BC had access to maps of the Ice Age, what else did he know? The psychological toll on the expedition members was heavy. Many reported a sense of heightened anxiety and the feeling of being watched. While skeptics will call this the curse of the tomb, the scientists are looking for a more rational, albeit equally disturbing, explanation. They have discovered that the geometric patterns on the walls are designed to vibrate at an infrasound frequency, sounds too low for the human ear to hear, but that the human brain processes as fear and dread. This is a form of acoustic engineering that is used today in crowd control and psychological research. The fact that it was built into a tomb 3,000 years ago shows a level of malicious genius that is hard to process. Now let's talk about the biological remains found inside the sarcophagus. When the team used a fiber optic camera to peek inside without fully breaking the seal, they didn't see a skeleton. They saw a figure wrapped in a translucent, resin-like material. The preservation is so perfect that the facial features are clearly visible, but the face isn't what they expected. The skull structure is notably different from the average human, with elongated features and large, deep-set eye sockets. This has led to a flurry of theories. Was Solomon truly human? Or did the legends of his otherworldly connections have a basis in biological reality? The scientific discovery of this tomb is currently being debated behind closed doors at some of the world's most prestigious institutions. Some want the site to be sealed forever, citing the potentially unstable nature of the electromagnetic and acoustic effects. Others believe this is the most important leap in our understanding of human history since the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. But everyone agrees on one thing. The tomb of Solomon was never meant to be opened. It was a prison, as much as it was a palace, designed to hold back something that the ancient world feared. The terrifying aspect mentioned in the reports often refers to the warning found at the final seal. Unlike typical curses that threaten bad luck, this inscription was scientific in nature. It warned of a return of the darkness from the earth, if the seals were broken. When geologists analyzed the seismic activity of the area, they found that the opening of the tomb coincided with a series of deep crust tremors that hadn't been seen in the region for centuries. It appears that the structural integrity of the tomb was somehow tied to the stability of the local fault lines. By breaking the seal, the archaeologists may have inadvertently triggered a geological chain reaction. This tomb is a masterclass in karst engineering, using the natural limestone caves and subterranean water flows to create a self-sustaining environment. But it goes beyond utility. The way the chambers are aligned suggests they were used as a giant antenna, designed to receive or transmit signals. Scientists are now investigating if the tomb was part of a larger network of similar sites across the ancient world. Could the wisdom of the ancients have been a global, interconnected system of information exchange? As we look at the artifacts recovered, the mystery only deepens. One object, a small crystalline sphere, remains a point of intense study. It glows with a faint internal light and appears to contain a dense, holographic-like projection of the solar system. When placed on one of the carved equations on the floor, the sphere rotates in perfect synchronization with the planets. This isn't just art, it is a high-precision astronomical instrument. The question of how such an object could be manufactured 3,000 years ago remains unanswered. The discovery of Solomon's tomb is a reminder that our ancestors were not primitive people in the way we like to think. They were masters of their environment, capable of feats that we struggle to replicate even today. But the discovery also serves as a warning. Some secrets were buried for a reason. Whether it's the infrasound that causes madness, the liquid metal that remains sterile, or the bioengineered guardians that wait in the dark, the Tomb of Solomon is a place of profound and terrifying power. The research teams are now focusing on the linguistic anomalies. The geometric script appears to be a form of mathematical language that can be read in 3 dimensions. By using AI to decode the patterns, researchers have found that the text contains a massive amount of data on human genetics and historical geological shifts. It is as if Solomon left a backup of the world's knowledge inside his own resting place. But why was it hidden so deep? And why was it designed to strike fear into those who found it? The role of the liquid metal continues to baffle chemists. Initial tests have found traces of isotopes that are rare in nature, suggesting that the fluid was manufactured or distilled through a process we don't recognize. Some have hypothesized that the fluid acted as a coolant for whatever power source was driving the tomb's acoustic and electromagnetic fields. If that's the case, then after 3,000 years, the machine of Solomon's tomb is still running. When you look at the drone footage of the site, you see a landscape that has been transformed by the eruption of energy during the breach. The sand for hundreds of yards around the entrance has turned into a greenish glass, a phenomenon usually only seen after high-intensity thermal events. This reinforces the idea that the seal wasn't just a physical door, it was a high-energy barrier. The archaeologists didn't just open a tomb, they deactivated a containment field. The biological remains of the Guardians are being studied at high-security labs. Their DNA is like nothing seen before, highly resilient, with a triple helix structure that suggests they were artificially enhanced. This is the stuff of science fiction, yet the physical evidence is sitting under a microscope. It raises the terrifying question, what else did the ancient kings have the power to create? As we dive into the records of the king's wisdom, we find that Solomon was said to have the Ring of Solomon, a seal that gave him power over the spiritual world. In the tomb, they found a ring, but it isn't a simple piece of jewelry. It is an intricate multi-layered device with microfilaments that suggest it could interact with the nervous system of the wearer. Scientists believe it may have been a neurointerface, a tool for controlling the sophisticated technology found within the tomb. When one of the lead researchers touched it, they reported a flood of sensory data that caused a temporary collapse. The mystery of Solomon's tomb is a window into a past that is far more complex and active than we ever imagined. It is a world of bioluminescent minerals, mathematical languages, and biological engineering. But moving toward the truth means facing the risks that the ancients tried to bury. The geological instability of the chamber is increasing, and the ghost signals are becoming more frequent. Is the tomb trying to reseal itself, or is it calling out to something else? Historians are now revisiting the ancient accounts of Solomon's construction of the first temple. Many texts describe how the temple was built without the sound of hammers or iron tools, using a mysterious tool called the shamir that could cut through stone like paper. In a side chest within the tomb, archaeologists found a small, vibrational device that matches the description of the shamir. The device caused the stone to disintegrate at a molecular level with almost no sound. This isn't magic. It is advanced vibrational science. The discovery has also shed light on the legendary mines of Solomon. The area around the tomb is rich in rare earth minerals that are essential for modern electronics. It appears that Solomon wasn't just mining gold and copper, he was extracting elements that were used to build the sophisticated devices found in his tomb. This changes our understanding of ancient economics and technology. Solomon's wealth wasn't just in raw materials. It was in his ability to process and utilize them in ways that wouldn't be seen again for millennia. The terrifying discovery at the heart of the sarcophagus is perhaps the most difficult for the team to report. Beneath the translucent resin, the figure of Solomon is holding a cylinder. When scanned, this cylinder shows a high-density storage capability, containing what scientists suspect is a digital or holographic record of the future. But it doesn't just record the past. It predicts a series of global events that have already come true, and some that are yet to happen. This raises a frightening philosophical question. Was Solomon wise because he was smart, or was he wise because he had a map of time? The seismic activity in the region is a huge concern for the local governments. The tomb is located near a major tectonic boundary, and the vibrational energy being emitted since the breach is actually helping to lubricate the fault lines. If the tomb's acoustic output isn't contained, it could trigger a massive earthquake. The discovery has moved from being a purely archaeological matter to a regional security crisis. Teams of engineers are now working to reseal the acoustic chambers using high-density polymers. But the tomb is resisting. Every time they block a vent, the infrasound simply finds another way out, often louder than before. One of the most vibrant aspects of this discovery is the realization that the ancient world was globalized in a way we didn't suspect. The materials in the tomb come from all over the planet. Obsidian from the Americas, minerals from the depths of the African continent, and alloys that contain traces of nickel only found in specific Siberian deposits. This suggests a vast trade and transportation network that could cross oceans. Solomon's 1,300 ships weren't just for coastal trade. They were the backbone of a secret, global technological empire. The bioorganic guardians are now being looked at as a form of synthetic life. They weren't naturally evolved. They were built to serve a purpose. This brings us face to face with the ethics of ancient kings. If they could grow guardians, what else did they grow? The tomb feels less like a resting place, and more like a laboratory. The resin preservation of Solomon himself is being analyzed as a possible stasis technology, waiting for a reawakening or a rediscovery. As we look at the complex geometry on the walls, AI analysis has found that the alphabet is actually a code for the human genome. Thousands of years before Watson and Crick, the architects of Solomon's tomb, were recording the blueprints of life. This discovery is so disruptive that much of the data is being kept under a classification higher than most military secrets. What did Solomon know about our own biology that we are still trying to figure out? The mystery of King Solomon's tomb is a story of layers. Layer upon layer of science, history, and a terrifying intelligence that we are only just beginning to grasp. It is a story that proves the ancient world was not a place of simplicity and myth, but a place of high science and active planetary management. But as we pull back those layers, we have to ask if we are ready for what we find. The infrasound, the liquid metal, and the genetic codes are all pieces of a puzzle that might be better left incomplete. The archaeologists are still working on the site, but the atmosphere has changed. The excitement and wonder of the first few days have been replaced by a sobering realization of the risks. The wisdom of Solomon was a burden, a power that he had to bury to keep the world safe. By opening his tomb, we have taken that burden upon ourselves. The rising seismic risks and the malfunctioning technology are just the first signs of the imbalance we have created. Think about the materials again. The non-corrosive alloy of the sarcophagus. Modern metallurgy has only recently begun to create similar materials that can withstand centuries of environmental stress. Yet here it is, polished and shining, having survived 3,000 years in a humid underground cavern. This is a scientific discovery that should be on every front page. But the anomalies are so numerous and so bizarre that they challenge the very foundation of our historical models. The liquid metal pool is now being studied as a possible room temperature superconductor. If the researchers can replicate its properties, it could revolutionize the world's energy grids. But the liquid is bonded to the tomb's environment. Every time a sample is taken outside, it loses its pulsation and becomes a stagnant, inert fluid. It is as if the tomb itself provides the energy required to keep the substance alive. This site-specific technology is a hallmark of ancient engineering, works that are integrated into the deep earth itself. The terrifying part of the discovery culminated when the researchers managed to translate the final warning at the base of the sarcophagus. It wasn't a warning about death or spirits. It was a warning about humanity's maturity. It stated that the wisdom within the vault would become a scourge if found by a civilization that hadn't yet learned to live in harmony with the planet. Looking at the seismic instability and the tension of the current world, the researchers couldn't help but feel that the warning was directed specifically at us. As the team prepares for the next phase, they are being shadowed by military and governmental oversight from multiple nations. The Tomb of Solomon has become a geopolitical prize of the highest order. The high-precision tools, the shamir, and the holographic storage are all technologies that could shift the balance of power on the planet. The terrifying truth is that the history we have been taught is a sanitized version of a much more complex and perhaps more dangerous reality. One of the most fascinating features is the astronomical alignment of the tomb's entrance. On certain days of the year, The light of specific star systems, not just the sun, is funneled through a series of obsidian mirrors to illuminate the central sarcophagus. This creates a data download effect, where the light hitting the crystalline structures on the tomb walls activates hidden scripts. Scientists have realized that the tomb is programmatic. It changes its behavior based on the date and the position of the Earth. The mystery of Solomon's tomb is a reminder that we are not the first advanced civilization to walk the Earth. We are part of a cycle, a long history of rise and fall, and the wisdom we find in the dark is a legacy of those who went before us. But with that wisdom comes a choice. Do we use the tech to build, or do we use it to destroy? Solomon buried it to keep it from the wrong hands. What will we do? The vibration in the chamber has reached a steady state. It is a hum that can be felt in the bone more than heard in the ear. It is the sound of an ancient machine, finally waking up after a 3,000-year sleep. The researchers are staying. They are documenting every square inch, and they are trying to understand the terrifying depth of King Solomon's legacy. But every day the earth beneath them groans a little louder, and the blue bioluminescent light pulses a little faster. The discovery of Solomon's tomb is a tidal wave for the scientific community. It challenges geology, physics, linguistics, and history. It is a vivid and vibrant reminder of the limitless potential of human ingenuity, and the limitless risks of that same power. As we watch this story unfold, we are witnessing the reopening of a chapter of history that was supposed to be closed forever. What happens next depends on our ability to handle the wisdom we have uncovered. The final report from the lead archaeologist included a curious note. He stated that after weeks in the tomb, he no longer felt like he was exploring a grave. He felt like he was restarting a process. He felt that Solomon's tomb wasn't a dead place, but a sleeping one. And now that it is awake, the world is a different place. The mystery of the 3,000-year-old tomb is no longer about the past. It is about the terrifying and incredible future that starts the moment the seal is broken. We have much to learn from the obsidian mirrors and the geometric scripts. We have to catch up to a technology that was already advanced when the first modern cities were being built. But we also have to respect the boundaries that Solomon set. He was called wise for a reason. He knew that some discoveries were too big for the world he lived in. The seismic sensors are still clicking. The liquid metal is still spiraling, and the figure in the resin is still waiting. Solomon's tomb is open, and history is literally caving in around us. It is a glorious and frightening era for discovery. As we continue to analyze the isotopes and decode the genes, we are not just looking back at King Solomon. We are looking into the mirror of our own potential, for good or for ill. Thank you for taking this journey into the deep past and the deep future. Stay curious, stay aware, and always respect the wisdom that is buried in the earth.